Final update. My uncle is acting strangely with my sister. I want to share a story that has been weighing heavily on my heart, one that involves my family and a situation that I never thought I would find myself in. It all started when I began to notice some unusual behavior from my uncle towards my younger sister. He's in his late 40s, and she's just 14. At first, I thought it might just be my imagination playing tricks on me, but the more I observed, the more concerned I became. Whenever we gathered for family events at his house, he seemed to shower her with attention. It wasn't just the gifts, which were always more extravagant than what he gave to the rest of us. It was the way he interacted with her. He would compliment her appearance, pat her lower back, rub her shoulders, and even grab her waist without any warning. This behavior felt increasingly inappropriate, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I had known my uncle for years, and while he had always been fond of my sister, she was his favorite after all. I couldn't pinpoint when his affection turned into something that made me uncomfortable. I'd have been hesitant to bring it up with anyone, especially since my grandmother seemed to brush off my concerns when I tried to talk to her. My parents were always busy with work, and I feared that if I spoke up, I might be overreacting or causing unnecessary drama. After some encouragement from others online, I decided it was time to talk to my sister about what I had noticed. I was nervous, but I knew it was important. When I finally brought it up, I learned that she was aware of his behavior and had mixed feelings about it. At first, she enjoyed the attention and gifts, feeling that he was nicer to her than our parents. However, she admitted that she started to feel uncomfortable when he began to touch her in ways that crossed a line. She revealed that this behavior had begun when she turned 12, and it mostly happened when they were alone in her room during our visits. She had no locks on her door, which made the situation even more troubling. My sister had been scared to voice her discomfort because our grandmother and aunt had dismissed her feelings in the past, insisting that she was just misinterpreting his affection. After showing her some comments I had received online, she learned about the term grooming for the first time. It was a shocking revelation for her, and she felt a mix of anger and confusion. I encouraged her to speak to our parents about it, and we agreed to approach them together. I also sent a few texts to our parents, explaining that my sister was uncomfortable with our uncle's behavior, but they responded with a vague promise to discuss it when we got home. The waiting was agonizing. I felt a sense of urgency to protect my sister, but I also knew that confronting our uncle could lead to serious consequences. I was torn between wanting to shield her from harm and fearing the fallout that might come from exposing our uncle's actions. As we awaited our parents' response, I couldn't help but feel that we were standing on the edge of a very delicate situation, one that could change our family dynamics forever. In the end, I realized that we had to act. My sister deserved to feel safe and respected, and it was time to ensure that our uncle understood the gravity of his actions. With the support of each other and the hope that our parents would take us seriously, we prepared to face this challenge together. It was a moment of reckoning, and I knew that whatever happened next would be pivotal for both of us. I never thought I would find myself in such a complicated family situation, but here I am, trying to navigate through a storm of emotions and revelations. It all started when I noticed my uncle acting strangely around my sister. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was overreacting, but as time went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One evening, while my sister and I were home alone, she confided in me that she had spoken to our aunt about her discomfort, but our aunt dismissed her concerns. This left me feeling uneasy, especially since our grandmother had done the same. I didn't want to jump to conclusions without proof, but I also didn't want to ignore my sister's feelings. I was torn between wanting to protect her and not wanting to create unnecessary drama. The next day, everything changed. Our parents returned home, and my sister and I decided it was time to confront them about our uncle's behavior. My mom was furious, while my dad seemed shocked. To my surprise, he revealed that he had known about our uncle's strange behavior for years. Apparently, our uncle had a troubling history with one of my cousins before my sister was born. It was our grandmother who caught him in the act and insisted he go to therapy. My dad thought he had changed, but clearly that wasn't the case. The situation escalated quickly. My mom was adamant that something needed to be done. She threatened divorce and even considered a restraining order against our uncle if my dad didn't take action. My dad, however, was hesitant. He seemed to believe that our uncle wouldn't harm his own family. This left me feeling frustrated and helpless. I wanted to protect my sister, but I also felt like I was caught in the middle of a family feud. As the days passed, I found myself increasingly stressed. My sister seemed okay, but I couldn't shake the anger I felt towards our uncle. I even entertained the thought of confronting him physically, which I knew wasn't a rational solution, but I was just so overwhelmed. I suggested to my sister that we could talk to the police or a counselor at school, but she refused. She felt embarrassed and worried that people would blame her for not speaking up sooner. In the days that followed, things took a turn for the worse. My mom made the decision to separate from my dad, and we moved in with her parents temporarily. They are older and not as active, but they provide a comforting presence amidst the chaos. My mom signed my sister up for therapy, which I thought was a positive step. She also planned to report our uncle to the police herself, as my sister was still too scared to do so. Life became a whirlwind of emotions. My mom was juggling the stress of 5 kids while trying to navigate the divorce process. I could see how exhausted she was, but she remained determined to protect us. Meanwhile, I felt helpless, unsure of how to support my sister or what to do next. Weeks passed, and the divorce was still in progress. My mom had managed to gather some of our belongings and bring them to her parents' house. I found solace in rereading the supportive comments from people online who had taken the time to offer advice. It reminded me that I wasn't alone in this struggle. As I reflect on everything that has happened, I realize that family dynamics can be incredibly complicated. It's a difficult journey, but I'm hopeful that with time, we will find a way to heal and move forward. For now, I'm focusing on supporting my sister and being there for my mom as we navigate this challenging chapter together. I want to share a deeply personal story about my family, one that has been filled with challenges and heartache. It all started when my father began reaching out to me after my mother stopped responding to his calls. At first, he expressed his apologies, but as days went by, the tone shifted. He started asking how I was doing, and then frustration seeped in. He accused me of meddling in matters that were supposedly beyond my concern, insisting that he, along with my grandmother and aunt, had everything under control. During this tumultuous time, my mother began taking my phone away, which made it difficult for me to keep everyone updated. I apologized for the silence, but there was a lot happening behind the scenes. One significant moment came when our cousin, who had also been affected by our uncle's inappropriate behavior, reached out to us through my mother's phone. She was older now and initially seemed awkward, but eventually she opened up about her experiences. She revealed that when our uncle began his troubling actions, my sister hadn't even been born yet. After my sister arrived, our cousin made the difficult decision to cut ties with our father's side of the family upon discovering that he had allowed our uncle to be part of their lives. This revelation left her feeling disgusted, and she shared that she never reported him because she feared reliving the trauma. Though she didn't go into detail, it was clear that her experiences were far more extensive than what my sister had endured. As I navigated these family dynamics, I was also trying to support my younger siblings. My sister's 15th birthday was approaching, and she was seeing a therapist who she described as nice, albeit a bit intimidating at times. I took on the responsibility of learning to cook meals beyond just microwave dinners, and I helped put my younger siblings to bed, even though they were old enough to manage on their own. My sister found solace in journaling, often filling her pages with anime drawings, which brought a bit of lightness to our situation. The younger kids didn't fully grasp the gravity of what was happening, but they understood, thanks to my mother's explanations, that our uncle had done something very wrong and that our father had allowed it to happen, which is why we were no longer living at home. I intended to keep this update brief, but as I wrote, I realized how much had transpired. I felt it was important to share everything, rather than just a quick note. Then, a few months later, I found myself in a place I never imagined I would be. My sister passed away. It wasn't due to any actions from our family, as a judge had ensured that they could never come near us again. However, despite her outward appearances of laughter and normalcy, she was struggling more than I realized. I had hoped that therapy and support would help her heal, but I didn't see the signs that she was still in pain. I often replayed moments in my mind, wishing I had noticed sooner, wishing I could have done more to protect her. She used to ask me if it was her fault, or if it would have been better if she had kept quiet. I always reassured her that it wasn't her fault, but now I grappled with the feeling that I had failed her. I thought we were celebrating small victories, like her comfort around our grandfather or her ability to sleep alone again. But now those moments felt hollow. The anger I felt was overwhelming. It seemed as though even though my father, aunt, uncle, and grandmother never touched her again, they were still responsible for her pain. I wished I could tell them that they were the reason she would never attend college, that they had robbed her of a future. There were days when I wished it had been me instead of her, just so she wouldn't have had to endure everything she did. I struggled with the weight of my grief and anger, feeling lost in a world where my sister was no longer present. My mother was devastated, and my younger siblings were too young to fully comprehend the loss. I knew I had to stay strong for them, even when the thought of joining my sister felt tempting. This journey has been incredibly difficult, and I wanted to share it not just to express my pain, but to remind others of the importance of being vigilant and supportive in times of crisis. Life can change in an instant, and sometimes we need to reach out and truly listen to those we care about.